So you will hurry up and do what he needs to do. Some reason why God has to deny you in front of other folk is because that's the only way you'll recover quicker. Sometimes when folk do out you on Facebook, sometimes you'll get your mind together. Sometimes you'll get rid of that no good Negro when the stuff that he did comes out on you. There are some moments where God has to allow stuff to show up publicly so you'll hurry up and do what he needs you to do. The text, first things it shows us is that I know you cried, but David has a moment of truth. David has to accept the consequences, the reality of what he's done. The second thing the text shows us as I hurry is that after recognizing the reality of your consequences, then you got to refuse to remain in regret. You got to refuse to remain in regret. The text says, after he heard the people, after he asked the question, the text then says in verse 20 that then David arose from the earth. He washed himself, he changed his clothes, and he came to the house of the Lord, and he worshiped. David shows us that even in the face of overwhelming grief and pain, you got to refuse to remain in regret. That there comes a time when we must rise up and get back to work. David doesn't deny the sorrow. We got to stop telling folk not to grieve. Grieve how you need to grieve, but that ain't going to change the situation. You got to learn how to grieve and keep moving while you're grieving. You got to learn how to grieve, but still make my way to the house of the Lord. The text says he got up, he washed himself, he changed his clothes, and he worshiped. Beloved, I came to simply tell somebody you need to get up. Please wash yourself. Please brush your teeth, get mouthwash, change your clothes, and get your tail to the house of God and worship. You got to get to the point where you understand some stuff I can't do. So if I just make my way, if I just make my way to the house of God, maybe today is the day. Maybe today is the day my marriage starts working. Maybe today is the day I get out of depression. Maybe today is the day I deal with my insecurity. You got to get to the house and worship. The way you refuse to remain in regret is you start taking the stuff off of you and you learn how to put it on God. Some of you are stuck. And you've been stuck for so long because you still holding the weight. When your body was never meant for you to hold the weight. Your mind was never meant for you to hold the weight. You got to refuse to remain in regret. There are some moments where you just got to get up and get to church. Sometimes you even got to scream through it. Sometimes you just got to crawl in. Sometimes there are moments when you don't want to smile. I don't want to fake like stuff is okay because it really ain't okay. I don't want to act like I love my spouse when he treating me bad. I don't want to act like this or that. It don't matter. Still get up. And get back. And I wonder, is that somebody's word this morning? Can you truly say that as long as I'm breathing, I'll always worship you? Can you truly say, as long as I can open my eyes, as long as I can lift my feet out the bed, as long as I got food in my refrigerator, I'll still worship because I got something to praise him for. Yeah, you got to refuse to remain in regret. I simply want to ask you at this point, what regret are you remaining in? Is it regret over that relationship? Is it regret over bad grades? Is it regret over how daddy treated you? Daddy wasn't there. Mama wasn't there. What regret is it that you've been sitting in and you've been playing the victim instead of giving it to God? You got to refuse to remain in regret. Text says that he got up, he washed. But then watch what happens almost done. The folk questioned David. They question him because they're saying, before, when you didn't know he was dead, he was fasting and praying. You wouldn't eat. And now that the worst of the worst could happen, how in the world can you get up and go to church? How in the world can you keep on going when I know folk that's in the same asylum for the stuff you've been through? How in the world can you keep moving? It's because David understood it ain't on me no more. I came to give somebody that word today. It ain't on you how daddy treated you. It ain't on you the mistakes you made and the results of it. It's okay. You got to move past it. You got to refuse to remain in regret. Beloved, the last point, I told you, you got to understand the reality of your consequences. Then you got to refuse to remain in regret. And lastly, you got to renew your relationship with God. You got to renew your relationship with God. They said, while the child was yet alive, you fasted and you wept. David then says something to them. He says, who can tell whether God will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he's dead. Wherefore should I fast? Because can I bring him back again? David gets to the point where he explains why he mourned during the illness, because he hoped and prayed that God might show mercy when he realized that God wouldn't show mercy. He understood finally that God is the one in control. So now, because he's in control and because it hurts, now me and God got to get right. The moments when you hurt the most because of what you feel like God did to you, that's when you got to renew that relationship. Some of you, for so long, you come into church, you've been playing, you've been doing all this and that, and you know you haven't renewed your relationship. How do I know that I've renewed my relationship? Because you get to the point where you say, for God I live, and for God I'll die. You get to the place where you say, if you don't bring me a man, I still love all of me. If you don't bring me a woman, I'm still a good man. You got to get to the point where you understand it's in God's hands now. I don't know who that's for today, but you've been sitting in pain, and it's been paralyzing you for so long, and God sent me here to tell you, talk to him. Don't talk to the preacher, talk to him. Stop thinking you got to come to church to get a word. You can get your word while you're sitting by the side of your bed. You can get your word while you're driving to work. You better get your word for yourself. I want to tell you, get you and God right. Stop thinking coming to church will save you. Listen, come to church. We want you to come. But it's about that vertical. It ain't about how you treat me. It's how you treat him. The reason